Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's horizon and watched the stars through the main screen. 3 months had passed since humanity built their first faster-than-light drive, and Jake felt proud to lead the first deep space mission. The ship moved through space near the Centauri system when Lieutenant Kevin Brooks called out from his station. "Captain, we have ships on sensors," Kevin said with worry in his voice. 5 large vessels coming toward us fast. Jake walked to the tactical display and saw the ships moving in perfect formation. These were not human ships. The design looked sharp and dangerous with weapons visible across their hulls. "Red alert," Jake ordered. "All hands to battle stations." The crew moved quickly to their positions. Dr. Lisa Park left the medical bay and came to the bridge. She always wanted to be present during first contact situations. Communications Officer Nancy White tried to send standard greeting messages but got no response. The alien ships surrounded the horizon in a tight circle. Jake felt sweat on his forehead as he realized how outgunned they were. Each alien ship was twice the size of his vessel, and their weapons were already charging. "This is Captain Morrison of the human ship Horizon," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "We come in peace and request peaceful contact." A harsh voice filled the bridge speakers. The words came through the translation computer in broken sentences. "Human ship, you are in Vectari space. Surrender now or be destroyed. The Empire shows no mercy to trespassers." Jake looked at his crew. They were scared but ready to fight if needed. "We did not know this was your space," Jake replied. "We are explorers seeking peaceful contact with other species. Please allow us to leave." The alien voice laughed coldly. "Humans are weak like all. The other species we have conquered. Your ship will be taken and your crew will serve the Empire or die." Lisa stepped forward. "Captain, let me try to talk to them," she said quietly. "As a doctor, I might be able to find common ground." Before Jake could answer, alarms started blaring from the alien ships. The largest vessel, which seemed to be the command ship, suddenly stopped moving. Bright flashes came from its engine section, and the ship began to drift. Kevin checked his sensors. "Captain, their main ship is in trouble. Looks like their reactor is overloading. The radiation levels are off the charts." The harsh voice came back over the radio, but now it sounded desperate. "Engine failure. Reactor containment failing. All ships maintain distance." Jake watched as the alien ship spun out of control. He could see small escape pods launching, but many seemed damaged. The ship was going to explode and take hundreds of lives with it. "Captain, we need to help them," Lisa said urgently. "Those are living beings in danger. They just threatened to kill us all," Kevin pointed out. "This could be a trap." Jake stared at the dying ship. Every military manual said not to trust hostile aliens. His duty was to protect his crew and return to Earth safely. But Lisa was right. Those were people dying out there. "All hands prepare for emergency rescue operations," Jake announced. Nancy opened a channel to their ship. "Human vessel, why do you approach?" the alien voice asked with confusion. "We are your enemies. You are beings in danger," Jake replied. "We are coming to help." The Horizon moved close to the alien ship despite the radiation danger. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez worked to extend the shields around both vessels. The rescue boats launched with volunteers wearing radiation suits. Lisa led the medical team as they brought alien survivors aboard. The creatures were tall and covered in dark scales. Their eyes were yellow, and they had sharp teeth. Many were badly hurt from the explosion. The alien commander was among the rescued. He was larger than the others and wore armor marked with symbols of rank. Lisa treated his burns while he stared at her with suspicious eyes. "Why do you help us human?" he asked in a weak voice. "We are Vectari. We destroy the weak. You should leave us to die." Lisa continued working on his wounds. "Because you are hurt and we can help," she said simply. "That is what we do," the Vectari commander, whose name was Zethek, could not understand this. In his culture, only the strong survived. Helping enemies was foolish and dangerous. Yet these humans risked their lives to save Vectari warriors who had threatened them. The rescue took 6 hours. 43 Vectari were saved from certain death. Lisa and her team worked without rest to treat the wounded aliens. They gave them the same care they would give injured humans. When the medical work was done, Jake met with Zethic in the medical bay. The Vectari leader was still weak, but his eyes burned with intensity. "You have shown weakness today, Human Morrison," Zethic said slowly. "The Empire will remember this. We will return with more ships, and your compassion will be your death. Mercy is for the weak, and the weak do not survive." Jake looked at the alien warrior. "Maybe," he said quietly. "But today 43 people are alive who would be dead." "That seems worth something." Zethic shook his head. He could not understand these strange creatures who saved their enemies. The other Vectari ships took their rescued comrades and left without another word. But Zethic remembered the human doctor, who treated his wounds with gentle hands. He remembered the captain, who risked everything to save lives. As the Horizon continued its journey, Jake wondered if he had made the right choice. Time would tell if human compassion was a strength or a fatal weakness in this dangerous galaxy. Word spread through Vectari space like fire through dry grass. War Master Zethic had been rescued by the humans he planned to destroy. Most Vectari leaders laughed at the story. They called it proof that humans were too weak to survive in the real galaxy. But some warriors who heard the tale felt something strange. They began to wonder about these creatures who saved enemies. 3 weeks after the rescue, Captain Morrison received new orders. Earth wanted the Horizon to continue exploring and making contact with alien species. The government hoped that showing peaceful intentions might prevent a war with the Vectari Empire. "Captain, we have a distress signal," Nancy announced during the morning watch. "It's coming from the binary star system ahead." Jake studied the navigation display. The system had 2 stars orbiting each other in a dangerous dance. Solar flares and gravity waves made it a deadly place for any ship. "What kind of ship, Nancy?" "Vectari science vessel," she replied. "They seem to be trapped near the smaller star." The bridge fell silent. Everyone remembered their last meeting with the Vectari. Kevin checked his weapon systems out of habit. Lisa moved closer to the captain's chair. "They might be hostile," Kevin warned. "This could be another trap." Jake thought about Zethic words. The Vectari leader had promised to return with more ships. But the distress signal sounded real and desperate. "Set course for their position," Jake ordered. "If they need help, we will give it." The Horizon moved carefully into the dangerous system. The 2 stars pulled at each other with massive gravity. Solar radiation filled space with deadly energy. On the main screen, they could see the Vectari ship caught between the 2 gravitational fields. "Their engines are damaged," Tony reported. "From engineering. They cannot break free from the gravity well. The stellar radiation is cooking their ship." Nancy opened communications. "Vectari vessel, this is the human ship Horizon. We received your distress call. Do you need assistance?" A female Vectari voice answered. She sounded scared and tired. "Human ship, we are scientist vessel Kethmer. Our engines failed during solar observation. We cannot escape the gravity field." "Why do you offer help to Vectari?" "Because you need help," Jake replied simply. "Can we beam your crew to safety?" "Negative," the alien scientist said. "Our research data must be saved. 20 years of work will be lost. Also, your ship will be damaged by the radiation if you come closer." Tony studied the problem on his engineering displays. The Vectari ship was stuck between 2 massive gravity sources. Their engines were not strong enough to break free. But if both ships worked together, they might have enough power. "Captain, I have an idea," Tony said. "If we link our engines to theirs, we might be able to pull them free. But we will have to get very close to their ship. The radiation will damage both vessels." Jake looked at his crew. They all knew the risks. If the plan failed, both ships would be destroyed. "Do it," he ordered. The rescue operation took 12 hours. Tony worked with the Vectari engineers to connect their power systems. The alien scientist named Kekstara guided them through the dangerous process. She had never worked with humans before but found their methods interesting. Human engineer Bill Clark had to put on a radiation suit and spacewalk between the ships to make the connections. The stellar radiation was so intense that his suit systems began failing. Kekstara watched in amazement as the human risked his life to save Vectari scientists. "Your engineer is very brave," she told Tony over the communications link. "In Vectari space, only the strong survive. But your people risk everything to help the weak." "We do not see you as weak," Tony replied while monitoring the power transfer. "You are scientists seeking knowledge. That makes you valuable." When the engine connection was complete, both ships fired their drives together. Slowly, they began to break free from the gravity trap, but the effort damaged both vessels. The Horizon lost 2 of its 4 engines. The Vectari ship lost life support in 3 sections. Both crews found themselves stranded in space with damaged ships. Repairs would take weeks. Jake made a decision that surprised everyone. "Kekstara, we should work together to fix our ships. We have materials you need, and you have knowledge we can use." "That is not the Vectari way," Kekstara replied. "We do not cooperate with other species. We conquer or we are conquered. Maybe there is a third choice," Jake suggested. "Maybe we can help each other." Cultural Officer Maria Santos took charge of the exchanges between the crews. She was an expert in alien cultures and languages. She began teaching Vectari crew members about human customs while learning about their society. Maria discovered that Vectari culture was built on survival of the strongest. They believed that showing mercy or helping others was a sign of weakness. Only by being tougher than everyone else could they stay alive in a hostile galaxy. "But what if the galaxy does not have to be hostile?" Maria asked Kekstara during one of their talks. "What if species could work together instead of fighting?" Kekstara found this idea disturbing. Her people had always survived by being stronger than their enemies. The idea of cooperation seemed impossible. "If we show weakness, others will destroy us," she said. "Are we destroying you?" Maria asked. "We have been working together for 2 weeks. Both our ships are getting stronger, not weaker." During the 3rd week, pirates attacked both ships. The raiders thought they could easily destroy 2 damaged vessels. But they found something unexpected. The human crew and Vectari crew fought together as one unit. Human tactics focus on protecting everyone and minimizing casualties. Vectari weapons were powerful and accurate. Together they created a defense that the pirates could not break. The raiders fled after losing 3 ships. Kekstara stood in the human briefing room after the battle. She looked at the mixed crew of humans and Vectari working together to repair damage. Warriors from both species helped wounded enemies without being ordered to do so. "I do not understand your people," she told Maria. "You risk your lives for strangers. You share your food with enemies. You treat our wounded as if they were your own children. This should make you weak, but somehow it makes you strong." Maria smiled. "Maybe strength is not just about fighting," she said. "Maybe it is about building something better together." When the repairs were finished, both ships were stronger than before. The Vectari had learned human engineering methods that made their systems more efficient. The humans had learned Vectari navigation techniques that made space travel safer. Kekstara returned to Vectari space with her crew and their rescue research data. But she also carried something else. She carried questions about everything she had been taught. Maybe the humans were not weak. Maybe there was a different way to be strong. As the Horizon continued its mission, Jake wondered what would happen next. They had saved Vectari lives twice now. Would it make any difference in the coming conflict, or would compassion prove to be humanity's greatest weakness after all? The reports from Kekstara reached the highest levels of Vectari command. War Master Zetek read them with growing anger. The scientists described humans who shared technology freely and worked as equals with Vectari crew members. She wrote about cooperation that made both species stronger. "This is contamination," declared Supreme Commander Dexfer during the War Council meeting. Our people are being poisoned by human weakness. We must act before this disease spreads further, but not. All Vectari leaders agreed. Admiral Nexco had read every report about human encounters. These humans defeated pirates while protecting our people, he pointed out. Their tactics are different, but effective. Perhaps we should study them more. Vexver slammed his claw. Hand on the metal table. There is nothing to study. Mercy is weakness. Cooperation is surrender. The Empire survives because we are stronger than everyone else. These humans threaten everything we believe. Young Officer Veltar listened to the debate from his position near the door. He had been assigned to study human behavior patterns for military intelligence. What he found confused him more each day. Humans seemed to grow stronger when they helped others. Their colonies thrive because different species work together willingly. Meanwhile, in human space, Commander Blake Harper established the first diplomatic station on Haven Point. The neutral space station orbited between human and alien territories. Blake hoped to create a place where different species could meet safely. Dr. Amy Foster joined Blake as the station's cultural expert. She had studied alien psychology for 10 years and wanted to understand how different species could work together. Her research focused on what happened when beings experience kindness from strangers. The preliminary data is fascinating, Amy told Blake during their weekly meeting. Species that interact peacefully with humans show increased innovation and social stability. Fear-based societies become more creative when they feel safe. Blake nodded while reviewing the latest reports. We have requests from 12 different species to establish trade relations. Even some Vectari merchants want to do business, despite their government's warnings. Amy pulled up her research files. That matches what I am seeing in the psychological profiles. Exposure to cooperative behavior seems to be contagious. Beings who experience trust begin to trust others. Those who receive help become more willing to help. The first major test came when a Vectari transport ship suffered life support failure near Haven Point. The ship carried 300 civilians, including many families with children. They would all die within hours without immediate assistance. Blake did not hesitate. Launch all rescue shuttles, he ordered. Get me engineering teams and medical staff. We have people to save. The Vectari captain expected to be abandoned according to his people's traditions. When human shuttles arrived to help, he could not understand their motivations. Why do you risk yourselves for Vectari civilians? He asked. Over the radio. Because they need help, Blake replied while coordinating the evacuation. Children are children, regardless of species. The rescue took 8 hours. Human medical teams worked alongside Vectari crew members to save every life possible. Dr. Foster treated injured Vectari children with the same gentle care she would show human patients. The civilian families watched in amazement as strangers risked everything to help them. One of the rescued civilians was an elderly Vectari named Grickstar. He had fought in 20 battles and conquered 6 worlds for the Empire. His granddaughter was among the children saved by human medics. Grickstar could not understand why enemies would die to protect his family. Your people are strange, he told Blake after the rescue. In Vectari space, the weak are left behind. Only the strong survive, yet you saved the weak and somehow become stronger. How is this possible? Blake sat with the old warrior in the station's medical bay. Maybe we become stronger because we choose to carry each other, he suggested. When someone falls, we do not leave them behind. We help them stand and keep moving together. News of the rescue spread through both human and Vectari space. And the Empire military leaders grew more concerned about human influence. But ordinary Vectari citizens began asking questions. If humans were truly weak, why did they keep winning? If compassion was foolish, why did it seem to work? Young officer, Veltar received orders to infiltrate human space and gather intelligence about their weaknesses. He volunteered for the mission hoping to understand these confusing aliens. His superiors expected him to find proof that human kindness was a military disadvantage. Veltar spent 3 months observing human colonies and stations. What he saw challenged everything he believed about survival and strength. Human settlements welcomed refugees from war-torn worlds. Mixed species crews worked on exploration ships. Former enemies became trusted allies. The most disturbing discovery came when Veltar witnessed humans risking their lives to save Vectari civilians from a space station fire. He watched human firefighters carry unconscious Vectari to safety while the station burned around them. 2 humans died protecting beings they had never met. They died for strangers, Veltar reported to Kexdar in a secret communication. Not for glory or conquest, but simply because others needed help. I cannot understand how this makes them stronger, but somehow it does. Kexdara had been conducting her own research into human behavior. I have been studying their history, she replied. They have survived wars, plagues, and disasters by working together. When crisis comes, they do not abandon the weak. They protect everyone and emerge stronger as a group. But the Empire teaches that only the strong deserve to survive, Veltar said with confusion in his voice. If we help the weak, we become weak ourselves. That is the foundation of our society. Perhaps our foundation is wrong, Kexdar suggested quietly. Perhaps there is a different way to be strong. The humans seem to prove this every day. The conversation was being monitored by Imperial intelligence. Within hours, both Veltar and Kexdara were declared traitors to the Empire. War Master Zethik himself was ordered to arrest them and anyone else infected by human ideas, but the contamination had spread further than the leadership realized. Thousands of Vectari had witnessed human compassion in action. They had seen enemies become allies and weakness become strength. Seeds of doubt were growing throughout the Empire. Supreme Commander Dexver made a final decision. Prepare the full battle fleet, he ordered. We will demonstrate proper Vectari values by destroying human space completely. Their poison ends now. As the largest military force in Vectari history assembled for war, something unexpected happened. Some crews began asking questions about their orders. For the first time in Imperial history, warriors wondered if there might be another way to solve problems. Besides violence, the galaxy stood on the edge of massive change. Would human compassion prove strong enough to stop an empire built on conquest and fear? The answer would determine the future of every species in known space. The Vectari war fleet moved through space like a storm of metal and death. 200 ships carrying 50,000 warriors headed toward human territory. Supreme Commander Dexver planned to make an example that would teach the galaxy about Vectari's strength. But other alien species watched the approaching conflict with new interest. Ambassador Rachel Stone stood before the Council of Worlds on Haven Point Station. Representatives from 12 different species sat around the circular table. For centuries, these beings had fought each other or lived in fear of Vectari conquest. Now they faced a choice. The Vectari Empire threatens not just humanity, but everyone who believes in cooperation. Rachel said to the assembled delegates, "We propose an alliance based on mutual defense and shared resources. Not conquest, but protection." The crystalline delegate Zert H spoke first. His people had fought the Vectari for 300 years. Humans ask us to trust former enemies. This goes against every military tradition we know. Why should we believe cooperation will succeed where force has failed? Rachel activated a holographic display showing trade and casualty statistics. "Look at the data," she said calmly. "Species that work with humans show increased prosperity and decreased conflict. War costs everyone while cooperation benefits all." The Void Syndicate representative, Kixara, leaned forward. Her species had been driven from their homeworld by Vectari expansion. "Your words sound good, human, but words do not stop battle fleets. The Empire has more ships than all our forces combined. Numbers are not everything," Rachel replied. "The Vectari expect us to fight like they do, ship against ship, warrior against warrior. But we can be smarter than that. United, we are stronger than the sum of our parts." While diplomats debated the future, the first battle had already begun. The mining colony of New Denver sat directly in the path of the Victari advance. Colonel Sam Turner commanded 800 human defenders against impossible odds. His orders were simple: evacuate civilians and delay the enemy as long as possible. But New Denver was not just a human colony anymore. Thousands of Victari refugees had settled there after fleeing Imperial persecution. Crystalline traders worked the mines alongside human engineers. Former enemies had become neighbors and friends. Colonel the Victari fleet has arrived, reported Lieutenant Dan Walsh from the command center. 60 ships in attack formation. They are demanding immediate surrender. Sam looked at the evacuation status on his screens. They needed 6 more hours to get everyone to safety. Send them our reply, he ordered. New Denver does not abandon its people. The battle began with orbital bombardment that shook the entire planet. Human defense platforms fired back, but were quickly overwhelmed. Sam's ground forces could only watch as Victari troops landed in. Massive assault ships. Leading the attack was War Master Zethik himself. He had volunteered to command the ground assault as penance for his earlier rescue by humans. This time he would show no weakness or mercy. But something went wrong with the Imperial plan almost immediately. The first Victari troops to enter the colony found humans and aliens working together to evacuate wounded civilians. Human soldiers were risking their lives to protect Victari refugees. The sight confused and disturbed the attacking warriors. "Sir, we have a problem," reported Captain Dexmer to Zethik over the battle communications. "The humans are protecting our civilians. They could escape faster if they abandoned them, but they refuse to leave anyone behind." Zethik felt anger rise. In his chest, "Those are traitors, not civilians," he snarled. "Anyone who accepts human help is weak and deserves to die." Continue the attack. The fighting continued for hours, but grew increasingly chaotic. Victari soldiers found themselves shooting at positions where their own people were being protected by human medics. Some warriors began hesitating when they saw the enemy treating wounded Victari with the same care given to humans. Sergeant Jerry Walsh led a rescue team into a collapsed building where civilians were trapped. His squad included humans, aliens, and even 2 Victari who had joined the Colonial Defense Force. They worked together to dig survivors from the rubble while battle raged around them. "I do not understand these humans," said Victari warrior Hex Morin to his squad mate. "They fight to protect beings who are not their own species. In the Empire, we fight only for conquest." What do they gain from this? Human Corporal Lisa Gray helped carry an injured Victari child to safety. "We gain a future where everyone can live without fear," she replied while dodging enemy fire. "That seems worth fighting for." The rescue operation succeeded, but Jerry's team was trapped by advancing Imperial forces. They faced certain death until Admiral Kate Phillips arrived with the human relief fleet. Her ships moved into orbit and did something that shocked both sides of the conflict. "Attention all vessels," Kate broadcast on open frequencies. "This is Admiral Phillips of the Human Defense Force. We offer immediate medical assistance to any wounded, regardless of species or allegiance. Our medical ships are standing by." Zethik could not believe what he was hearing. "The humans offered to heal their enemies in the middle of battle," he said to his staff officers. "This is either supreme confidence or complete madness." Some Victari captains requested medical aid for their wounded crew members. Others considered it an insult to their honor. The Imperial fleet began to split as commanders made individual decisions about accepting help from their enemies. Dr. Lisa Park had been promoted to Chief Medical Officer for the entire defense fleet. Her ships moved between the battle lines, treating casualties from both sides. Victari warriors who expected to be abandoned found themselves receiving expert care from human doctors. The most dramatic moment came when Hex Morin was paralyzed by weapons fire during a ground assault. According to Victari tradition, wounded warriors who could not fight were left to die. But medic Jerry Walsh crawled through enemy fire to reach the injured alien. "Leave me, human," Hex Morin said weakly. "I am finished." Save your own people. Jerry began treating the Victari's injuries while bullets flew overhead. Nobody gets left behind, he said firmly. That is not how we do things. Jerry spent 4 hours performing field surgery to save Hexmorn's life. Human. Soldiers formed a protective circle around the medical work, risking their own lives to protect an enemy warrior. The scene was broadcast across the battle network as other Victari watched in amazement. Why do they do this? Whispered Captain Dexmer to himself as he watched the feed. They gain nothing from helping us. We have come to destroy them, and they respond with healing. What kind of strength is this? The battle for New Denver ended in stalemate. The humans had successfully evacuated all civilians, including thousands of Victari refugees. But they had also lost half their military equipment and many good soldiers. Both sides claimed victory while nursing their wounds. War Master Zethek found himself in the strange position of commanding troops who questioned their orders for the first time in Imperial history. Some of his officers suggested that perhaps the humans were not as weak as they appeared. Others wondered if there might be honor in protecting the innocent regardless of species. As both fleets regrouped for the next battle, Admiral Phillips sent a message to all ships in the system. We extend an invitation to any who seek peace, she broadcast. Our medical facilities remain open to treat the wounded. Our colonies offer sanctuary to those who choose cooperation over conflict. The choice is yours. The response came slowly. At first, individual Victari soldiers began asking for medical treatment. Small groups requested permission to visit human settlements. What they found there would shake the Empire to its foundation and change the course of galactic history forever. The cracks in the Victari Empire grew wider each day. Videos of humans treating wounded Victari soldiers spread through the Imperial fleet like wildfire. Warriors who had never questioned orders began asking why they were fighting people who risked everything to save their enemies. Kexthara and Veltar met in secret aboard the science vessel Kefmer. Both had been marked as traitors by Imperial command, but their ideas were spreading faster than the authorities could stop them. Other Victari officers joined their hidden meetings to discuss what they had witnessed. The humans have proven something we thought impossible, Kexthara explained to the growing group of supporters. Compassion is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength because it turns enemies into allies. Every being they help becomes a potential friend instead of a certain foe. Captain Dexmer had joined the rebellion after watching humans save his wounded crew members. I have fought for the Empire for 20 years, he said during one of their meetings. I thought strength meant making others fear you, but these humans make others want to help them. Which philosophy creates more loyal followers? The secret broadcasts reached Imperial homeworlds where civilian populations learned about human behavior for the first time. Stories spread of aliens who shared food with strangers and protected children who were not their own species. Many Victari began asking why their government forbade contact with such beings. Meanwhile, Supreme Commander Dexver grew desperate to stop the contamination. He issued orders for the immediate execution of any warrior who showed sympathy for human ideas. But enforcing these commands became impossible as more officers joined the growing resistance movement. Deploy the planet killer ships, Dexver commanded during an emergency war council. We will destroy every human world completely. No survivors, no mercy, no chance for their poison to spread further. The massive dreadnought vessels moved toward their targets carrying weapons that could crack planets in half. Each ship represented the peak of Victari military technology designed to eliminate entire civilizations. But as the fleet advanced, their crews faced internal conflicts that threatened the mission. Commander, Hex Call of the Dreadnought Destroyers. Edge found himself questioning orders for the first time in his career. His younger brother had been rescued by human medics during the New Denver battle. The humans had saved a life that Victari tradition would have abandoned. Sir, we are approaching the human colony world of Peaceful Valley, reported his navigation. Officer, population 2 million, including many non-human refugees. Orders are to eliminate all life. Hexcall stared at the planet on his main screen. Intelligence reports said the world was defended by only a few patrol ships. The destruction would be easy and complete. But something felt wrong about killing beings who had shown kindness to his own people. On the surface, a peaceful valley. Nurse Helen Davis worked in a refugee camp that housed thousands of beings from dozens of species. Many were Victari civilians who had fled their own empire to find safety among humans. She treated diseases and injuries without caring about the species of her patients. Nurse Davis, we have incoming ships, called Orderly Mike Chun from the communications. Station. They look like Victari dreadnoughts. Helen continued working on a young Victari child who had been sick for days. The little one reminded her of her own daughter back on Earth. How long until they arrive, Mike? 2 hours, maybe less, Mike replied with fear in his voice. Should we evacuate? Helen looked around the medical center at hundreds of patients who could not be moved safely. Many were too sick or injured to survive a hasty evacuation. We stay, she decided. These people need us. Word of the approaching dreadnoughts reached the Victari refugees in the camp. Elder Grigstar had lived on Peaceful Valley for 6 months after being rescued from the transport ship disaster. He had watched humans care for his granddaughter as if she were their own child. They will not abandon us, Grigstar told the frightened Victari families. I have seen how humans behave when others are in danger. They do not run from those who need help. The old warrior was right. Human staff members stayed at their posts despite the approaching danger. Military personnel prepared. Defenses but focused mainly on protecting civilians. Even when facing certain death, they refused to leave innocent beings defenseless. Aboard the destroyers, Edge Commander Hexcall received updates on the target. His intelligence officer reported massive evacuation efforts underway on the planet. Surface, but something in the data troubled him. Sir, the evacuation ships are not just carrying humans, the officer noted. They are also taking Victari civilians and other species. The humans are using their own evacuation capacity to save our people. Hexcall studied the sensor readings more carefully. Human ships were making multiple trips to evacuate refugees before saving their own citizens. They were literally putting alien lives ahead of their own survival. This cannot be correct, he said quietly. Confirmed, sir, the sensor operator replied. Human evacuation protocols prioritize the most vulnerable regardless of species. They are saving Victari children before human adults. The commander felt something break inside his chest. These were the beings he had been ordered to exterminate. Creatures who had died to protect his own people's offspring. How could such actions be called weakness or evil? Similar scenes played out across the dreadnought. Fleet. Crew members learned that human colonies contained thousands of Victari refugees living peacefully with former enemies. Many of these aliens were family members of Imperial warriors. The humans were protecting the families of the very soldiers. Sent to destroy them got Captain Yextar of the Dreadnought Final. Victory discovered that his own sister lived on one of the target worlds. She had fled the Empire after refusing an arranged marriage and found sanctuary among humans. Now he was ordered to kill her along with everyone who had given her a new life. I cannot do this, Yextar announced to his bridge crew. These humans have protected our people when we would not. They have shown mercy when we showed only cruelty. I will not murder those who practice what we claim to value. One by one, dreadnought commanders began refusing their orders. Some faced mutiny from crew members who demanded they continue the mission. Others found their entire ships in agreement that genocide was wrong regardless of military doctrine. The planet killer. Fleets split apart as individual commanders made moral choices that would define the future of their species. Some vessels continued toward their targets determined to complete the mission. Others turned away, unable to destroy beings who had shown them such unexpected kindness. Supreme, Commander Dexver watched his perfect plan crumble as reports flooded in from the scattered fleet. His ultimate weapons were paralyzed not by enemy fire, but by the moral questions raised by human compassion. The Empire's greatest strength had become its greatest weakness. "Sir, we have communication from the rebel ships," reported his aide nervously. "They are requesting permission to negotiate with human forces. Some are asking for sanctuary for their crews and families." Vexfer realized that his empire was destroying itself. Centuries of military tradition were collapsing because humans had shown his people a different way to live. The poison of compassion had spread too far to be stopped by Forstad as the Civil War began in earnest. Human colonies continued their policy of offering aid to anyone who needed help. Vektari deserters found safety alongside the very people they had been sent to kill. Former enemies worked together to build something neither could achieve alone. The galaxy held its breath as the mightiest empire known. Space tore itself apart over the radical idea that strength could come from helping others instead of conquering them. The Vektari homeworld had never seen anything like the crowds gathering in the capital city. Thousands of citizens demanded answers from their government about the reports coming from the war zone. Videos of humans saving Vektari lives played on public screens while Imperial leaders tried desperately to maintain control. Kekstara stood before the High Council in chains, but her voice carried clearly through the Great Hall. Behind her sat dozens of other officers who had been arrested for refusing orders to attack human civilians. The gallery was packed with family members of soldiers serving in the fleet. "Honored counselors, you call us traitors, but we have seen the truth," Kekstara declared. "Human compassion is not weakness. It is the most powerful force in the galaxy. Every being they help becomes stronger. Every enemy they save becomes an ally. They have proven that cooperation creates power beyond anything conquest can achieve." Council leader Vextala sneered from his elevated platform. "You speak nonsense infected by alien poison. The Empire survives because we are stronger than everyone else. Mercy is for the weak and cooperation is surrender." "Then explain why our mightiest fleet is destroying itself," challenged Kekstara. "Half our dreadnoughts refuse orders because their crews have seen humans die protecting Vektari children. Warriors who never question commands now ask why we fight beings who risk everything to help strangers." From the gallery came a voice that silenced the entire chamber. Elder Grigstar stepped forward wearing the uniform of a veteran warrior. His chest bore medals from 30 battles fought for Imperial glory. But his granddaughter walked beside him healthy and alive because of human medical care. "I have served this empire for 50 years, Grigstar announced. "I conquered worlds and destroyed enemies without mercy. I believed our way was the only way. But humans saved my family when our own people would have abandoned them. They treated my granddaughter as if she were their own child. That is not weakness. That is strength beyond anything I have ever seen." More voices joined from the crowd. Parents whose children had been rescued by humans. Soldiers whose lives had been saved by enemy medics. Civilians who had found sanctuary in human space when their own government failed them. The council session descended into chaos as Imperial authority crumbled before the testimony of its own citizens. Outside in the streets, massive demonstrations called for peace with the humans. The empire that had ruled through fear was being torn apart by Hope Dot. Meanwhile, in space, Admiral Kate Phillips received an unexpected communication. Commander Hexcall of the Dreadnought Destroyer's Edge requested permission to approach under a flag of truce. His massive warship could destroy her entire fleet, but he came seeking negotiation instead of battle. "Admiral Phillips, this is Commander Hexcall," came the transmission. "I request permission to discuss terms of surrender. My crew has voted to lay down arms rather than fight beings who have shown us such mercy." Kate felt amazement and relief flood through her. "Permission granted, Commander. We welcome any who choose peace over war." The sight of a Vektari dreadnought docking peacefully at Haven Point Station sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other alien species that had watched the conflict with growing interest began sending their own diplomatic missions. The humans had achieved what no military force had ever accomplished. They had convinced an empire to abandon conquest through the simple act of helping others. Engineer Tony Rodriguez found himself working alongside former enemies to repair battle damage on both human and Vektari ships. The technical exchange benefited everyone as different technologies were combined in new ways. Problems that had challenged scientists for years were solved in weeks through cooperative effort. "This is remarkable," said Vectari engineer Kixmut, while examining human life support systems. "Your designs prioritize safety for all crew members over efficiency. In Imperial ships, only officers receive full protection. But your approach actually increases overall performance." Tony nodded while studying Vectari weapon systems that could be converted to peaceful purposes. "When everyone feels valued, they work harder," he explained. "Fear might force obedience, but trust creates dedication. People who know they matter will give everything to protect what they believe in." The transformation accelerated as more Imperial units chose cooperation over conflict. Vectari scientists shared research that had been classified for centuries. Human farmers taught sustainable agriculture to worlds that had been strip-mined for resources. Former slaves were freed and given the chance to rebuild their lives. Dr. Lisa Park established the first joint human Vectari medical school on Haven Point Station. Students from both species learned to treat patients with equal compassion, regardless of their origin. The graduation ceremony brought tears to beings who had never thought natural enemies could become healing partners. "Today we celebrate something new in galactic history," Lisa told the assembled graduates. "We have proven that knowledge shared freely multiplies rather than diminishes. When we teach others to heal, we do not become less capable ourselves. We become part of something greater than any individual could achieve alone." The ceremony was broadcast throughout known space, inspiring other species to seek similar partnerships. The Crystalline Confederacy established exchange programs with human universities. The Void Syndicate opened their trade routes to any species that embraced cooperative principles. But the most important moment came when former Supreme Commander Vexver was brought before an international tribunal to answer for war crimes. Many expected him to be defiant and unrepentant. Instead, he requested to speak with the human medical staff who had treated wounded Vectari during the conflict. "I do not understand your people," Vexver said to Dr. Helen Davis in the prison medical bay. "You had every right to hate us. We came to destroy everything you built. Yet your healers treated our wounded with the same care they gave your own." "Why?" Helen finished checking his blood pressure before answering. "Because you are a living being in need of help," she said simply. "That is all the reason we require," Vexver stared at the human woman who could have let him die but chose to heal him instead. For the first time in his life, he began to understand what true strength looked like. "Perhaps our entire civilization was built on the wrong foundation," he admitted quietly. The trial ended with Vexver accepting responsibility for his actions and requesting to spend his remaining years working to repair the damage caused by Imperial aggression. His transformation from destroyer to healer became a symbol of the changes sweeping through. Vectari Society. Cultural Officer Maria Santis worked with Kextara to draft the Galactic Cooperation Charter. The document established principles that spread throughout known space, that diversity creates strength, that helping others benefits everyone, and that cooperation achieves more than conquest ever could. "We are writing the foundation for a new kind of civilization," Maria explained during one of their planning sessions. "Not based on who can impose their will on others, but on who can create the most benefit for all." The signing ceremony took place on Haven Point with representatives from 47 different species. Captain Jake Morrison looked out at delegates who had once been enemies working together to build a better future. His decision to rescue hostile aliens had started a chain reaction that transformed the entire galaxy. "Today we choose cooperation over competition," Jake declared, as he added his signature to the historic document. "We choose to see other beings as potential friends rather than certain enemies. We choose to build rather than destroy." As the ceremony concluded, children from dozens of species played together in the station gardens. Their laughter echoed through corridors that had once known only the silence of mutual fear and suspicion. Former enemies had become neighbors and friends. Admiral Philip stood watching the mixed families enjoy their peaceful celebration. Human parents pushed Vectari children on swings, while alien elders told stories to fascinated human youngsters. The site represented everything their struggle had achieved. The galaxy's deadliest weapon was never our technology or our military might, she realized with quiet satisfaction. It was our stubborn refusal to give up on others, even when they had given up on themselves. Compassion really was the ultimate. Victory, the transformation was complete. An empire built on conquest had become a confederation dedicated to cooperation. Species that had fought for millennia now worked together to explore the universe and solve common problems. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force, but had won it over through the simple, radical act of caring about others as much as themselves. In years to come, historians would study how a small act of mercy had toppled the greatest military power in known space. They would conclude that compassion was indeed the most powerful weapon in the universe because it was the only one that made everyone stronger when it was used.